Did you know the fact that fully 80% of the students who participate in the IELTS exam fail in the speaking test or in the writing section of the test? Do you know the fact that regardless of how good you are in your English language skills, you could fail in terms of getting a very good score in the IELTS exam? Do you know the fact that IELTS exam is not as difficult or as easy as you might think? This is Jai Khan from our university channel and welcome to this very important video in which you will be able to learn about the hardcore truths about the IELTS exam. Not just mere saying, but the hardcore and the real truth about the exam which will enable you to get a very good score in the IELTS exam. Okay, let's go on with the video. First of all, in most of the cases, if you look carefully at the IELTS exam and its processes, you will see that most of the students are usually failing in two parts of the exam, not in the four parts of the exam, but in mostly two parts of the exam. The first part is the speaking part. You probably know the fact that regardless of how good your language skills are, whenever you go in front of people, whenever you go in front of someone, you are bound to be nervous and you suddenly find yourself alone. And when you know the fact that a person in front of you is evaluating you based upon how you speak and the words that come out of your mouth, so then there is this nervousness that gets into your body and which it deviates you from your general skills. Even if you were a very good speaker, whenever you were in front of the examiner, you could score pretty bad in terms of your speaking skills. And a lot of the times if the examiner or the examiner, the person that that is taking your test, if that person is not in your favor, he might give you bad marks regardless of how good you were. So there could be you could face a lot of the troubles in the speaking parts as well as in the writing part. Now writing part is very critical. Whenever you are speaking in front of someone, that person doesn't have the ability to judge you by looking at your words. But whenever you're in the writing section, whatever you are writing there, each and every word can be evaluated by the person who is evaluating your writing sheet. So for that reason, it could be possible that regardless of how well you write, maybe for some weird reason that person might not like your writings. Maybe just the way that you thought during the exam time didn't match his criteria. So that person could easily give you bad score in the writing section. I know thousands of students who attempted maybe 5 times, 10 times for this IELTS exam and failed in the speaking part or in the writing part. But the writing parts, if your basics of English language is not good, you could wind up a big and huge failure. So for that reason, prepare well for these two critical sections of the International English Language Testing System exam or the IELTS exam. Okay, let us move on to the next fact. You see, IELTS exam is not as easy as you might think. You might think, oh, it's just test of a language. No, it is not. It's a test. It's a huge and extensive test. It's not going to test how your English language skills are. It's going to test you what type of person you are. Your personality will come out whenever you're in front of the examiner that is taking your viva. Regardless of you're giving your viva via video call or you're giving the viva in person. In a lot of the times, your expression qualities, whether that person likes you or not, a lot of the time these factors could change the fact of your getting a good score or not. So for that reason, you must prepare well and you must not think that this exam is very easy. And a lot of the times, if you're from a good background, maybe you're studying in a good university, and you might thinking that I'm going to get a good score in the IELTS exam. No, who said that you would get a very good score? You could wind up broke in the exam hall, because of the examiner might not like you. So for that reason, prepare well. It's not as easy as it sounds. If I tell you about my experience, I managed to get 8 pass in this exam, right? But that didn't came to me, by one night's hard work. So it came to me because of the extensive preparation that I took. I knew as a fact, regardless of how good my skills are, I must adapt to these circumstances. I must adapt to the situations and the processes and the sections of the IELTS exam. And I had to analyze where I could wind up broke, where I could mess up. And then I had to reverse certain things relating to the processes. That's how I managed to get a good score. So for that reason, I took extensive preparation. I knew the fact that it's not going to be very easy. Next fact, IELTS exam is not as hard as you think. A lot of the times you might think that it's very hard. No, it's not. It is overall a language test. So in certain aspects it might be difficult for you. In certain aspects it might be easier for you. You see, you have been, if you are learning English for maybe 10 years, then you might have some very good basics of it. For example, if you look at me, I studied in the business school of Janginagar University, right? I did my business administration degree from there, and as well as I studied in one of the best schools in Bangladesh, which is the Government Laboratory High School. So for that reason, I had the basics necessary to imply to the exam hall, to impress the examiner. So I had the resources, well prepared for many years before the exam. If you are a student of if you're a student of a backward school, a lot of the ways you're going to wind up broke in the exam hall because you don't have the internal resources necessary, to get a good score in the exam, unfortunately. Okay, next one. Okay, the next one is, regardless of how good your English language skills are, that might not match your IELTS score. I know this fact. We know thousands of students. I know maybe many students from other, private universities or whatever. They got some very good caliber of English language. Whenever they speak, even I got students who speak like maybe, they speak like the presidents of the United States of America, and it's good. It sounds good. But the fact is, their internal resources are very poor. When it comes to evaluation in terms of an international standard, regardless of how good you think you are, you might have a great deal of confidence while you are speaking, but when it comes to the international evaluation process, you might wind up broke, unfortunately. There could be circumstances which might not go in the favor that you were thinking. So for that reason, prepare well, and unless you prepare well, you're going to get the type of results that you deserve. Universe always gives people what the people deserve. It's not what you ask for, it's what you prepare for. So prepare well. And in my videos I told you that you should read books like this one. You should books that could transform your lives, and you might not following my advices, and I don't think you should. You got a mind of your own and use it. All right, now next one. Strategy is important. Another important fact for the IELTS exam, if you want to get a very good score, I guess there is no alternative of developing a very good strategy. Your strategy could give you a very good edge over the competition. So make sure you got a strategy for your critical parts of the exam, which is the speaking and writing part, and also other strategies for the other parts. And you must have a appropriate strategy for preparing for this exam. I mean, if you're just preparing just like an ordinary human being, who's studying just 5 or 10 days before his exam, I don't think you're going to do very well in this exam. So, if you want to be fortunate, if you want to be lucky, then you should decide and prepare an appropriate strategy for this exam. All right, last but not the least, the fact. Another important factor in terms of your IELTS examination success is luck, your fortune. So, how can you be lucky? I got a saying about luck. Luck, it doesn't bring permanent good to anyone. My friend George said, fickle fate is a vicious goddess that brings no permanent good to anyone. Instead, she brings ruins to everyone. So you must think like this. You must think like, something bad is going to happen. And unless you prevent it from happening, you are not going to get the good out of it. If you have a dream, if you have an ambition, to study in a very good institution, I don't think there is any alternative of taking the preparation to prevent the misfortune, to prevent the catastrophe that is coming towards you. And unless you prevent that shit, unless you prevent this trouble, unless you prevent this catastrophe, you might wind up broke in the exam. So prepare well before your fortune is taken away from you. Best of luck for your exam. I hope you all the best.